Okay, everybody, I have a bit of a confession to make, and it's gonna sound weird, but stick with me. I have real data points that I wanna point out to you. The Kawasaki H2 is actually not fast. And it's not in the way that you think. It is literally fast, right? Like, this bike did 211 miles per hour in a standing mile. That is atrociously fast, but I've had this theory for a while now because I've been riding this bike, and I think in the real world, it's actually not that fast. And hear me out. The reasons I kind of am saying this is because, number one, if you go down any twisty set of roads, this thing is a handful of a motorcycle. It is terrifying to ride in anything that isn't a big, wide, straight highway. If you're to grab this machine and go try to chuck it down a twisty set of roads, you're probably gonna be faster on a 650 naked bike. Actually, I think I am faster on our local twisty roads on a 650 naked bike than this beast of an H2. At some point, you have so much power that it actually gets in the way of you riding quickly. This bike is difficult to manage in the amount of power it puts out, and I think ultimately that ends up with you riding a little bit slower as well too. And I don't think it's just on twisty roads. I have not taken this motorcycle out to an actual racetrack. I've taken it to the mile strip, but not like a closed circuit environment with actual corners. But I would guarantee you the kinds of times I'm doing on this bike are probably similar to the kinds of times that I would do on like an Aprilia RS660. That feels like about where I would fall with this thing, just because it is so much mental kind of tolls to ride this thing. And actually, I'm proven out by data too. As I mentioned, I'd have real data points for you guys in today's video. On the Isle of Man TT, which is as close as you can get to like real world fast riding, which is just to the nth degree, right? Guys are faster on the 1000cc bikes than they've ever been on the H2s. The fastest times set are by guys like Michael Dunlop on the Fireblade, I believe he was riding, S1000RR, those sorts of bikes, not this supercharged beast of a motorcycle. I also think that for roll racing, where this thing you would think might be king of everything, I think unless you have like a fully built H2 like this one and you're just outrageously brave on the gas, I think that a lightweight 1000cc bike would gap this thing up to about 180 or 190 miles an hour. Yes, this thing can go the distance. It'll go 220, 230, 240, right? Whatever it might be if you let it enough space to breathe. But you don't ever really have that kind of space to let it just eat and breathe. And so I think that a 1000cc bike like a Panigale V4R or a Honda Fireblade or a ZX-10, any of those sorts of machines with a well set up package for roll racing, maybe an extended swing arm, the right gears, a more aggressive motor, some lightweight mods if you're doing the roll racing thing, which that is not my world, but I have seen it on YouTube and all that. Those bikes jump really hard from the light and from the get-go on 60 rolls and stuff like that. They can hit really hard, and with the lightweight and the quick shifter and all that stuff, it's gonna be difficult to keep up with those sorts of machines with something like the H2. I've seen roll racing where a guy has like a super prepped Hayabusa or a super prepped Gixxer 1000, and there's a guy on a Turbo Hayabusa, and it's only above like 180 miles an hour that the turbo bike starts to really creep up. So I think realistically in the real world, a well set up 1000cc bike is actually faster than this machine. So it kind of defeats the purpose of it too, I think. And the other thing to think about too is kind of stoplight to stoplight, real world riding. I think something like a Super Duke 1290 is just, or like an Indian FTR 1200 even, like stoplight to stoplight, the accessible amounts of torque that those machines have, the ability to put down actual power and to propel the machine forward. This bike makes so much power that it just spins. It ends up being just a top speed monster, which is what it really is, and it was always designed to be. But it's funny, I think people who don't ride as many motorcycles or don't have as much experience, they might see this and think, oh, it's a supercharged 1000cc motor, 998cc, whatever you want to say. It has to be the fastest thing ever on two wheels. And it gives you an amazing sense of speed However, you are not exactly the fastest thing on two wheels. You know, something like a MotoGP bike, of course, is much lighter weight, makes the same amount of power as this, maybe a little bit more even. Those bikes are insanely fast because of how well set up they are and what they're supposed to do, and they can obviously corner really well too. So it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this bike, and if you don't know, it's a giveaway bike, which I should have mentioned at the beginning, but now that you're watching the video all the way to this point, you should know. Go to gamingnew.co, get signed up, get entered to win this thing. I'm giving away this H2, which is crazy, so don't miss out on that. But yeah, I've been riding this bike around, thinking about it more, and it ends up to me feeling a little bit more like the ZX4RR, which you're gonna think is kind of silly, but it's the fact of the novelty of it, right? The supercharged flutter, the sweeping torque that it has down low, all those emotional kind of connections to the machine makes the riding experience really interesting and really crazy. But ultimately, I think this is a bike that is mostly suited for the mile event sort of thing and the feeling of riding it. And I think that if you want to be, I'd say, competitive, even in like road racing or roll racing or even drag racing, an H2 is not the right bike. And that's why I think this bike is so cool and why I like riding it so much, because I think the experience of it vastly outweighs any of the things where you think about, oh, this bike is faster, this bike is better. Because I think when you have a Gixxer 1000, there's nothing special about it. And so you end up kind of chasing the roll racing or the track day stuff just to kind of get yourself to be excited about the bike. Whereas this thing, you turn the key on, you hear the supercharger flutter, and you're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing better than a supercharged motorcycle, in my opinion. And as I mentioned with twisty road riding, this thing is a really big handful, and if you're riding this thing expecting to be able to really carve up twisties in a meaningful way, I would suggest just about any other motorcycle, realistically. You know, something like this is going to be very difficult for you to get down a twisty road effectively and safely and confidently. This thing doesn't really elicit a confident feeling when you're kind of going through the turns. It's big, it's heavy, it's brash, it makes a ton of power. It's a little scary and hairy to ride when the going gets a little more twisty and turny. You know, stuff that's lighter weight like an R6 or even an RS660 is much more confidence inspiring when you flick it over on the side of the tire and you get to really appreciate it. So I really think the average rider, someone who isn't highly skilled, would not really benefit from all the power that this bike can offer. And really, that kind of opens the Pandora's box to say, well, Yanni, I think, you know, nobody can really benefit from the power that a 1000cc bike makes anyways, and that's why there's rider modes and all the electronics and traction control. And I do agree with you, but those bikes are at least a little bit better set up to actually take corners. But I will say, I get the same handful feeling when I ride an R1 on the street or an S1000RR on the street and an H2 on the street. It's all the same feeling. I don't really feel like I want to take a bunch of turns because the bike is just so ridiculously aggressive. You really just want to go take them on a racetrack and just let them frickin' eat. You know, we have Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, and that's a place where, you know, now that I think about it, maybe I should take the H2 to Coda and just see what it can do on the back straight. I'm pretty sure I could clip off like 190 miles an hour or something like that because this bike is just stupidly fast. So guys, that's my opinion on why I think the H2 is a little bit of an odd duck when it comes to fast motorcycles and why I think it's actually not that fast. You've seen maybe Gixxer Bra's videos why he believes 600s are actually faster than 1000s, and I kind of tend to agree. You know, even on track day riding, people are generally faster on smaller, lighter bikes and 600s than they are on 1000s. Myself included, I am faster on a mid-displacement bike than a 1000cc bike. I've tested plenty of 1000cc bikes at Eagles Canyon Raceway, and I end up being probably about as fast, or if not faster, on 600 class bikes anyways. But if you guys want to see me take this thing on track, let me know in the comments down below. I would do it for the views. I would do it for YouTube. I would risk life and limb and just try with this thing on track. I think I would be terrified, but it could make for good content. So let me know down below what you think. Let me know what you think about fast bikes, if this is something that you feel the same as I do, or do you feel differently? Do you feel like, oh, bro, let me at it, dude. I'll crush up any twisty road at the H2. and I will promptly link you to the Dunning-Kruger effect on Wikipedia, and then we can have a nice conversation. So let me know. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I truly do appreciate it. Just a quick little update here on the H2. Remember, it is a giveaway motorcycle, so head over to gamingNoob.co, get your entries to win this thing. You're not going to want to miss that. We got a bunch of new items on the store. Make sure you check that out, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Only one thing to say to you today. While we sit here, taking a knee, it's a special moment, me and you hanging out here. Do it. I don't even got to tell you what to do. You already know what to do. You've made it to the end of the video. You got the time. I know you're sitting there. You want to make sure that you can keep watching yourself some Yammy Noob. So what you want to do, just click that video right over here. Do it.